Welcome back to the People of Penn State podcast. I'm Katie Farnham with the Alumni Association, and today I'm joined by Cade Miller, a 2024 graduate from the Belisario College of Communications with a degree in journalism. Cade is now the Associate Director of Admissions at Shepherd University. Today he's going to share about his involvement at Penn State, how it helped to get him where he is today, and a very unique experience he had showing a particularly stubborn dairy cow. Cade, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to talk to you and hear a little bit about your unique Penn State experiences. So let's start from the beginning. Why did you choose Penn State?
Why did I choose Penn State? Well, to be honest, it changes all the time. But the story that I always go with was when I was in 7th grade, I went to the whiteout game and I was sitting in the Letterman section with my dad, and we were right beside the student section. And I remember just feeling the atmosphere that everyone feels at their whiteout games that they get to go to. And I turned to my dad and I was like, I'm going here. So from 7th grade on, I was committed to Penn State. I'm from West Virginia, so it's like nobody from my high school has ever been to Penn State. And I was dedicated to go. And yeah, I just worked super hard to apply. I only applied to 3 schools, and Penn State was one of them. So that was what really got me. And you can kind of see the life-changing experience that Beaver Stadium had on me.
Well, committing in 7th grade, that's pretty impressive. And, you have to work really hard to get to the end goal, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, once you were finally here, what you were involved in as a student, because there were a lot of things.
Yeah. So when I first got there, it was 2020. So it was COVID. So I stayed in the resident halls. And I didn't go too far. But I got heavily involved right there from the communication kind of clubs and organizations. So I got involved with Com Radio, working with their entertainment group. I got involved in the Communication Student Council that was under Dean Harden at the time. And those were kind of the big ones. And the Penn State TV network. Those were kind of what I was focused on when I first got there. And then in sophomore year, when everybody started to go outside a little more, I got involved as an orientation leader that summer. So I was a part of the team that helped welcome the new class all throughout every Commonwealth campus as well, since it was half online, half in person. And then after that, I was involved in UPUA, the University Park Undergraduate Association, which is the student government. And that year, I was also inducted into Lion Ambassador. So I was super excited about that. That was another big reason why I came to Penn State. I had a tour with Lion Ambassador, and I remember I'm going to be in that club. So those were kind of my big organizations that I got involved with. And my senior year, I also was the intern for undergraduate admissions. So that was really cool to kind of plan all the accepted student stays and the open house and the tours that were going on for prospective students and their families.
Cade, did you have time to sleep? Just checking.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I
was a communications major. I had lots of fun. So don't worry. I would go to all my classes, and then I had time to sleep and do other things. So no worries.
Great balance.
Yes.
So we're going to talk a little bit about where you are now, but you are working in higher ed, and that kind of pipeline from being super involved in college to now, being passionate about higher ed. Tell us why it's so important to be involved when you are a student and how that kind of helped your journey.
Well, yeah. I mean, the biggest thing that comes to mind right there is what I tell a lot of students is that as soon as you join, you're going to want to join 3 clubs. One that's specific to your major, one that's specific to you and what your interests are, and one that's philanthropic. And the reason is because if you find people that have the same interests, you're going to make friends. And that's what everybody's biggest fear is when they come to college is, will I fit in? Will I make friends? And that's also a big determiner if they remain in college. So getting involved is kind of the biggest reason to find your community. And so that's what I always push for. But I knew that I found my community as soon as I started joining into certain organizations, like even Com Radio and the student government Lion Ambassadors. I had so much fun with all those people. So it's the biggest reason to find your community, but also build your resume. That helps a lot too.
So let's talk a little bit about your audio journalism, because
Mhm.
it received some national and state recognition. So tell us a little bit about those accolades and what those experiences were like for you.
So when I first started my freshman year, I was really interested in radio. And then radio kind of introduced me to podcasting. So my first big kind of assignment was through my podcasting class. We did a podcast. It was right after the passing of Franco Harris. And so we did a multi-episode story about kind of his friends and family. And it was super cool to kind of call um, his friends and his family. But we got to kind of dive deeper in his legacy. And so it was about 6 episodes, and I did the final episode with my partner Maddie, and we got to interview this woman Renee, who oversaw a a golf course that he played at a lot, and he donated a lot of money and time to. It's Black owned, so it was super cool. But we interviewed her, and she got like emotional over the interview, just like reminiscing on their relationship, and so that was super cool. But we put the episodes together and we submitted it to the Keystone Media Awards, and that won first place, which was super cool because that was kind of like the biggest award that I've won so far about anything journalism related. And then my senior year, I had this idea of kind of doing a multi-episode piece about farmers and agriculture in Pennsylvania. My grandfather was a dairy farmer, and I thought it was really interesting to kind of share the story. One coming from a farmers college, Penn State, and then coming into the university and kind of being able to share stories like that. I wanted to produce something like that. And it was really cool because Maggie Messett, who was a professor in journalism at the time, she came in and she kind of had the same idea. So sorry. Maggie Messett came in at the time, and she had the same idea about producing a podcast about agriculture in Pennsylvania. And we got together and we kind of said, we want to cover this, this, and this. And I got 2 other people to work on the project with me. We went around Pennsylvania and interviewed small farmers, big farms, big organizations. We went to the Pennsylvania Farm Show. We interviewed kids who were showing animals for days. And that was super interesting. And then my senior year, my last semester for spring break, I actually stayed with farmers for a week. And I kind of followed them around their farm. It was a whole big story. And that was sent for the Hearst Media Award, which was very cool. It won 9th place. And then the last kind of a big award was there was a train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. And it was a big story, and our student journalists went for Belisario. They went and covered the story about what was going on, how people were recovering from it, and later they wanted to turn it into a multimedia piece. So I got pulled in to kind of create every different story and turn them into smaller audio pieces. And it became a map where people could scroll around and click different areas of the town and hear an audio story about what was going on after the aftermath. And I think that won first place for multimedia, which was super cool for the Hearst. Don't quote me on that. I can't remember which it did, but yeah, those were kind of my 3 big awards that I like to share as much as possible, of course. But yeah.
And you should, obviously.
Well, maybe not too much.
So that one piece about agriculture in Pennsylvania kind of led you on a very interesting side quest your senior year. So tell us the whole story.
Okay. So the original thought going into this was, after watching hours of, high schoolers and middle schoolers show the animals at the Pennsylvania Farm Show and like going up to them with a microphone in my hand and talking to them, I saw one day that the Penn State Dairy Club was putting on a amateur cow show. And I was like, oh, I have to do this. I will put a microphone in my back pocket and I will record all of it. I will hook myself up and talk to the people and interview them, and while I'm also showing a cow. Well, it did not turn out the way I thought it was going to be, because when we walked in, you got to pick your cow, and there was this one that was like holding her head out of like the fence and trying to lick everybody. And I knew going in that I wanted to pick something that was a little more tame. Well, no other cow had a personality like her, so I did choose that cow, who I did name Barbara Jean. Barbara Jean is actually my grandma's name. She grew up on a dairy farm, so I didn't tell her. But yeah, so I picked this cow, and I would go in 4 times a week, and I would walk with this cow for like 2 hours every day. And I would just walk around, walk backwards with her, put like the lead on, like the rope around her face, and just kind of like softly and gently walk around. Barbara Jean did not want to do this at all. She was super irritated at the fact that I had something on her face and I had her out of her pen and she was not eating constantly. So she was just not happy. And she would bite me. Like, I didn't know really cows like really bit, but they do apparently. And then she would fall and just like lay there. She fell on me a couple of times. She never really kicked, but she was not happy that I was walking her around. And then we had like a week before the big competition, they brought in the like national champions of dairy cow showing, who happened to be Penn Staters, which was pretty cool. So they were students, and they were showing us how to, lead your cow. And apparently you wanted to like lift their chin fat to make them look more feminine. So that's what I was told. So I did that. My mom used to show cows when she was growing up. My grandparents did. The people that I interviewed for my podcast, they all showed cows. So I was getting lots of support and, critiques as I was doing this. But at the end, Barbara Jean did get most improved. She was super bad at the beginning, and everybody knew that she was really bad, but she was very good at the end. And I also, during the competition, I did it. I walked her around. She didn't have any issues, but we did win champion of the amateur cow show, which was super crazy. But the whole idea of recording it did not last very long because, again, she would fall on me and she would bite me and she would like chew on my like clothes. So I thought probably bringing out like Penn State's microphone into the field to do this might be a little too much of, intrusive journalism, if you will. So yeah, I did not happen to do that, but it was pretty cool that I got to experience what I was kind of researching. The students, those kids that were practicing with these animals, we were telling the story about how hard it was and how much time it took and how it was like equivalent to practicing like a varsity sport, if not more time. And I experienced that. So it was super cool. I was grateful to do it. And my grandma did come. And when they announced me and my cow as Barbara Jean, apparently she was freaking out. She did not know that I named my cow after her. And we got a bunch of pictures of her and the cow after the event. And I hope Barbara Jean's doing well.
I was going to say, do we have a Barbara Jean update?
Okay. I don't know. I don't know how gruesome this is. But she definitely was at this age. She was probably being milked now. But she's probably getting to the age where they go to the next cycle of what the dairy farmers at Penn State learn.
But you gave her a great time while she was in her youth, and that's what matters.
He's a grand champion. Let's put it that way, right? What other cow there is a grand champion? It's so true. Go girl. Hope you're well.
We're so proud of you, Barbara Jean.
We are.
All right, so let's get into today, what you're doing today. We talked a little bit about it before, how your involvement really helped you find this passion for higher ed. So tell us about where you are now.
Yeah, so I work at Shepherd University. I am the associate director of admissions. It's actually like my hometown college. My parents met at Shepherd. At the time, it was Shepherd College. But my parents met there, and then we kind of moved. They lived in the area. And I grew up in the area. So when I was looking at colleges, I was like, I am not going to the place that I go to every Saturday to watch football games. But here I am. I moved home and I was applying to jobs. and I got this one, and it kind of reached out. They kind of reached out, and they were super excited to have me on board as a legacy, I guess. But I was very excited and honored to kind of return to my parents' alma mater in my hometown, just to kind of support the higher education area in West Virginia. But yeah, so I work in admissions. I work with the events and the recruitment. So we plan about where our admissions counselors are going to go every year to recruit students. These past 2 years, I actually worked with Pennsylvania. So I was the Pennsylvania counselor. So I got to go back up to the State College area a little bit and try to steal some students. Yeah, so now we work with the events, and it's kind of like throwing it back to my college tour times, because I do oversee the student ambassador program, which we named the Rambassadors because we're the Shepherd Rams. And so, yeah, so I'm just kind of doing the things that I did as an intern, which was super exciting, but at a much smaller scale with Shepherd. And I'm super honored to be recently named the Associate Director of Admissions. And play a different role, as in like working with our university process and how to get students in quicker, and how to give access to students who might not consider college as an option in their future.
And what parts of your time at Penn State are you able to apply in your job today?
Oh my gosh, a lot. We'll first start with the classes. So I get to work a lot with our communications team, and work a lot with like how we're sharing our story. What does our brand look like? How are we trying to reach out to prospective students and families? What is Shepherd supposed to feel like and look like as students are coming in? And then with UPUA, working with extra groups, external groups. I got to work with, university admission or university admin, and I do that now. So I'm looking at policy and things like that of how we can better the student experience. And of course, line ambassadors doing tours all the time helps a lot, especially with that recruitment aspect. I give a tour every once in a while at Shepherd, and so that's always kind of fun to do. But yeah, I've taken a lot away from my Penn State experience and brought it to what I'm doing now, especially with my internship at university, or the undergraduate admissions at Penn State, with accepted student stays and open houses. I really kind of understood that you want students to be able to see that this is home for them. And that's something that I brought a lot with to Shepherd. If we're going to bring students onto campus, we want to make them feel like this is somewhere they could stay for the next 4 years, that they're going to be invested in, they're going to be, kept safe and understood and welcomed. And we want to do that. And that's exactly what I'm bringing away from Penn State. So there's a lot of things that I got to learn, and a lot of people that I got to meet that are also always kind of encouraging me and helping me throughout different things that we're trying to plan. So it's super cool.
All roads lead back to Penn State.
Of course they do. Of course they do.
And as a fairly recent grad, do you have any advice for current students? You work a lot with students now. So any advice for current students or young alumni who are kind of in that in-between phase, in what you learned kind of in your in-between phase that you would want to share with your fellow Penn Staters?
Yeah. Don't lose hope if you're looking for a job. A job will come. I mean, I think I applied to over like 150 jobs as I was looking for positions from before graduation until when I got my first position at Shepherd. And so that's always kind of a hard thing to do. But I will be honest, I leaned a lot onto my mentors from Penn State when I was choosing between this job and a different one. Another big factor that helped me with Shepherd was they offered a free master's degree if you're a staff. And I really wanted to get my master's degree. So I graduate in May, which is super exciting. But yeah, so lean on the people that you've met and the people that you kind of respect and look up to, because those people will have advice that want to share. And I think it's important to keep those, network and relationships, kind of good, and keep up with them and check in, because you never know who might reach out to you, or you never know who might set something up for you. Recently, I had a classmate of mine through the podcasting class that was asking questions about my internship at SiriusXM. And he was kind of just, seeing what it was like, what the interview process was like. And so I shared some of my experience and also like how I got the internship and what it looked like. So that network is super important, especially through Penn State, but really any network that you have, and maintaining those is so important. But yeah, I've also kept up just with my friends. We are going for a skiing trip this weekend. And so, yeah, I just like maintaining relationships and keeping up with people, I think is so important, that you've met through Penn State, because you never know what could happen. Some good could come from it.
Penn State network and Penn State friendships last forever. I'm convinced.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we like to wrap things up with a quick lightning round of some Penn State related questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I feel like you were made for these, so let's go.
Okay. Let's hear it.
Your favorite creamery flavor?
Oh, it's alumni swirl. Yeah, alumni swirl is probably my favorite, but monkey business is pretty good too.
That's a good choice. Your favorite spot on campus?
The Hints was always a place that I was at. Like, I'll be honest, I was at the Hints. Yeah.
We did not pay him to say that.
Yeah. Yeah, right. We'll get that check later.
Your favorite class and or professor while you were a student?
My favorite class was probably multimedia. I don't know the number. But it was multimedia class, was super fun. Oh gosh, I don't want to limit to like one. Mike Porman was up there. He's somebody I stay in touch with a lot. And then Maggie Messett, still keep up with her a lot too. And Mila, my professor for multimedia. I don't know. I had a lot of great relationships with professors, and I was super grateful for all of them.
Goes back to that staying connected piece, that piece that you guys shared.
Yeah.
Your favorite local restaurant when you're back in State College?
My friend worked for the Corner Room, and I think she would be mad if I did not mention that. So I guess the Corner Room, but can I say cafe? Is
Absolutely.
that bad?
No.
Okay, good. Cafe is up there. My name is on the wall. Okay. Just saying.
Has to be on the list then.
It's on the plaque. Yeah.
The last one, your most treasured piece of Penn State merch?
Oh my gosh. I just did a clean out of all my stuff. I had a fear of throwing away. So all of my Penn State stuff that I don't wear on a daily basis is in a bin. But my most treasured, I have a hockey jersey from Penn State, which was super cool. And I have that, and I wear that pretty often, especially in the winter.
Well, Cade, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story with us. And of course, Barbara Jean's story as well. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you to Cade for joining us today. And to all of our listeners, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Shout out to our behind-the-scenes crew, Abrielle Clark and Gabrielle Harris, for their work on this episode. For more alumni stories, make sure you check out the Penn Stater magazine at pennstatermag.com. And for more information about the Alumni Association, visit alumni.psu.edu. We are.